Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this very topical panel discussion on financial literacy. I'm Papavassiliou. I'm currently the Secretary to the Cabinet of Ministers of the Republic of Cyprus. I'm an economist by training, and I'm very happy to be here with you to discuss this very interesting topic, especially amongst the youth, I believe, on financial literacy. It is quite evident that we live in times where financial decisions, such as how to manage our personal budgets or even plan for our retirement, are shaping the quality of our lives. So here today, we'll discuss how the knowledge and skills on how to take informed financial decisions. That means understanding how money works and how to use it effectively is a challenge for many, and why financial literacy matters. We'll hear more about this important subject from our distinguished guests, Ms. Nathalie Berger. Welcome. Nathalie Berger is currently the Director for Support to Member States Reform in the Directorate-General for Structural Reform Support in the European Commission. We also have with us Ms. Fernando Coalho, Deputy Director in the Banking Contact Supervision Department of the Bank of Portugal. Welcome to Cyprus. And also Mr. Charalambos Vrasidas, Pambos, as you'd like to be called, who is the Executive Director of CARDET. CARDET is a Center for the Advancement of Research and Development in Educational Technology. And Pambos is also a professor at the University of Nicosia. I'll say a few words of where we stand in Cyprus on this topic, on financial literacy strategy. The government is currently implementing a financial literacy strategy, which was adopted by the Council of Ministers in 2022. Very recently, we have established the governance structure for implementing the strategy. And in September this year, we started also introducing financial literacy, the financial literacy subject in the schools, in the secondary schools, in particular the third grade of gymnasiums, secondary education schools. So this is from my side. Without further ado, I'll pass the floor to our panelists, and I'll start with Nathalie, who can give us a bit the European perspective on this issue. And we'd like, I think it's very interesting to hear how does the European Commission sees the financial literacy topic, and what are the initiatives taken on this subject? Thank you.
Does it work? Now it works. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for inviting me to join the Cyprus Economic Forum. It's a great honor, a great pleasure to be here, and it is wonderful to see topics such as financial literacy being put on the agenda. Why is this topic so important, and why is it so important for young people? And I'm delighted to see many young people in the room. In today's society, people are solicited on a daily basis by ads, by influencers, by a lot of external information, throwing promises of very rapid and phenomenal gains for some investments that may sometimes be a bit hazardous. And in today's society, the lack of the necessary literacy, numeracy, and digital competencies can really hold a person back from achieving her or his full potential. Financial literacy skills are important for everyone, and I think they are important from a very early age, they need to be acquired, and they need to be adapted to the period of life we are all living in. Why are they so important? Because they can facilitate responsible financial behavior. They can stimulate the confidence and the self-confidence of people to take adequate decisions for one's own financial future or situation. And these are topics which have an immediate impact for the citizens, but they can also have an impact for the society at large. Because if we think of the framework we're living in, the aging Europe, the problem of the pensions gaps, etc., people will more and more need to accumulate savings to be able to finance their old age, so they better earn the adequate skills at an early age. Moreover, in our daily life, we continuously take decisions that have financial implications. So financial literacy is absolutely essential for each and every single person. And these decisions are all the more important in the current economic context of high inflation, which erodes the savings and the purchasing powers. Now you ask me what we're doing in the European Commission on financial literacy. Actually, since over a decade, the European Commission has recognized the importance of financial literacy, and we have encouraged the development of financial literacy and the development of financial education across the member states. Together with the OECD, the European Commission, the Directorate-General in charge of financial services, financial stability and capital markets union, have developed the Financial Competence Framework for Adults. And that was published in January 2022, following the Commission's Capital Markets Union Action Plan, which was adopted in 2020. And this competence framework, this financial competence framework, defines a set of competencies that pertain to personal finance. And that work continued with the Financial Competence Framework for Children and Youth, which was launched in October 2023. This framework establishes a shared understanding of the essential skills that children and teenagers at different stages of their lives need to take well-informed personal financial decisions immediately. For example, how to best spend their pocket money, and later in their life. So when considering when and how to buy a car, for example, to go to work, or when to purchase the first flat, and how to do it to have access to property. So these competence frameworks are meant to guide the public policies, the financial literacy programs, and the educational materials that are being developed by the national administrations, by the educational institutions, and also by the private sector, because the private sector can play a very important role in this. And the main objective of this educational material is to offer the authorities in the member state an objective basis for improving individuals' financial skills in order for them to be able to make sound financial decisions regarding their own finances. And we're indeed pleased to see that many member states are committed to promote financial literacy. Among them, many requested our technical support at the Directorate-General for support to structural reforms, to further empower their citizens, their investors, and their businesses, targeting both the general population and also identifying vulnerable groups. So I'm thinking of young people, I'm thinking of senior people. We have had a project, for example, in France, looking at the commercial practices targeting older people to get them to be adapted to the needs of the elderly population, or targeting the needs of individuals with lower income or lower education, some women, the unemployed, or people living in smaller cities or more remote areas, migrants, people with disabilities, or owners of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. In this respect, I'm really glad to see that the Cypriot authorities and the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Cyprus have engaged along this route by first defining themselves a national strategy, which was adopted in 2022, and then by moving on for its implementation. And as explained by Mrs. Papavassiliou, we are partnering with the Cypriot authorities to implement this strategy, which carries out a survey to better measure the level of citizens in financial literacy and to develop a specific website with educational tools that are targeted to all demographic groups in Cyprus. And we're also organizing a training of trainers model with training material and training sessions to teach the trainers who will ultimately provide financial education to adults in Cyprus. And this work is ongoing, and I really hope that the whole people of Cyprus will make an active use of these tools. So in our work, we really strive to deliver results that will ultimately benefit the European citizens and thus contribute to increasing the resilience of people to financial shocks across their whole life, to avoid frauds and scams, and then secure their future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathalie. It's very interesting to hear, and it's very important to know that the European Union has taken initiatives, important initiatives towards this direction, has set the framework of competences on financial literacy, which member states follow. As you said, the shared understanding of these competences is very important, and the involvement of stakeholders from the public, private, and non-for-profit sectors is critical in these initiatives. Here in Cyprus, we have a national financial literacy strategy, as mentioned, with the Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance playing a pivotal role. But I think it's important to hear what is the role of the civil society stakeholders in the process. So, Ambos, maybe you're the expert to answer on this. How does the non-for-profit sectors, the stakeholder organizations, contribute to the enhancement of the financial well-being of Cyprus's citizens?
Thank you to Directorate Forum for the invitation and the honor to be here, and thank you to all the panelists in Cyprus Forum. I think the civil society has a very important role, and it's that role of a critical friend. In all our work, we've been operating for 20 years, started in Southeast Asia. Public-private partnerships are a key element for success, and we've seen it time and time over again. In Cyprus, for example, we work very closely with the Ministry of Education, with the Citizenship Commissioner and so on, to develop several initiatives. And I think that it's very important for civil society to have a role. At the same time, civil society can come in and reach populations and marginalized groups and vulnerable groups that unfortunately formal schooling is failing to reach. And that's where several programs that I will mention briefly have a role. At the same time, it's important to put a kind of a small parenthesis here that when we talk about financial literacy, it's not an individual competence. The way we see it is a systemic issue. It's not the responsibility only for the individual to know, but for the state and for society to provide in a holistic approach for a systemic approach to well-being. One key element is the financial well-being. For financial well-being, you need financial literacy. So it's important to have in mind that it's not simply about teaching youth how to open a bank account. there are many other factors that need to be in place. I can elaborate more on this, but we offer several programs for families, for schools. We work closely with the Ministry of Education, and several of these programs were supported either by DG Reform or the Erasmus Agency, and I can elaborate more on those later. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bambos. I noted down that a systemic approach is key to this process. So we need the whole ecosystem to be in place and work towards financial literacy. So I think, Fernando, it will be very interesting to hear how this financial literacy ecosystem is organized in Portugal, in your country. So how do you raise the awareness on this very important topic towards both the general population, but also the more vulnerable groups of the society?
Thank you. First of all, let me thank the organization and the DG Reform for the invitation to be here in my name and the name of the Portuguese Central Bank. Yes, financial literacy, as it was already been explained, is a very important issue. In Portugal, for the Portuguese Central Bank, it is a key priority since 2008, even before the international financial crisis. We started to look at it within our banking conduct supervision mandate, together with the regulation and oversight of financial institutions. So on the supply side of the market, we started to do financial literacy initiatives acting on the demand side of the market, because as Nathalie explained, ever and ever more important, consumers are asked to take more and more important financial decisions, and so they have to be empowered to take that decisions. So we launched in 2011 a national plan for financial education. It is the way we call to our national strategy. In 2011, the Central Bank, the Securities Market Commission, and the Insurance and Pension Funds Supervisory Authority, so the three financial supervisors, launched a national strategy that was endorsed by the Ministry of Finance to increase the financial knowledge and improve the attitudes and behaviors of the overall population. But the overall population is not an homogeneous group. It has different groups, and we have to define key priority groups. In our case, we are particularly focused on children and youth, on workers, on managers of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, and also on vulnerable groups, elderly people, migrants, unemployed people, low-income and low-education families. That are our vulnerable groups. And we work with a wide range of stakeholders, because as my colleague here said, these stakeholders, the civil society entities, are very well positioned to be, they are close to these population target groups. They know their training needs, their priorities, the best deliver channels and moments for us to deliver financial literacy. So the way we deliver financial literacy in Portugal within the national strategy is to look for the population, to define a target group, to find a strategic stakeholder, to work with that partner to define a core competencies framework, then to train the trainers, the multipliers that can go to people and disseminate financial education, to prepare materials for them, and then to monitor and evaluate the results of this partnership. So it is very important, this kind of governance that we have. We have a coordinating committee for daily activities with the three supervisors, but then we have a monitor committee where all these stakeholders have a seat. And we meet twice a year with them to make a balance and to define new priorities. That's the way we are organized.
Thank you. Portuguese example, which seems to undertake a lot of best practices, and maybe Nathalie is more expert here. You oversee a number of countries, and you've helped support the financial literacy strategies and action plans for in many countries, both in the public and private sectors. So do you see any other transferable good practices that can be applied across Europe?
Thank you very much. Well, you mentioned that we have this project in Cyprus, and this project includes the development of a website, of a mobile application, which I think is a very, very interesting step to have a mobile application for financial literacy, as well as related educational content, so calculators, guides, infographics, videos, etc. We have been working with a rather large number of member states, helping them to frame, develop and implement their financial literacy strategy. And I think that, roughly speaking, the general logic of the projects is similar. And they do have a large replicability potential, and really I think that they have benefited from best-in-class type of expertise that we have gathered through the EU and beyond, and working with the OECD, etc. So to take lessons and see how to replicate, I think for the educational tools, one of the best practices that we drew from earlier projects is that these tools should be available at the same place. They should be easily accessible. They should be visible to everyone, acting as a single entry point for this type of material to really make it easy for the people to find this information. So I can give an example, excuse me. For example, in Austria, we have helped creating a single and dedicated platform, which has a name. It's called Finanzavi. And we've done that in the member states as well. Second important lesson and something to replicate is that the actions must be built collectively. It cannot be a top-down approach, and I think Bambos mentioned this in his intervention. We need to leverage on the experience and the efforts of many local actors, which I think you also did in Portugal, through collaboration among all stakeholders at central and local level. And in my view, the good coordination between the public authorities and the civil society is very important for the widest possible reach. I'm thinking back of a project that we've done in Spain, for example, with the Public Employment Service, and that was targeting the women working on farms in the countryside. There you have a target, and you know how to adapt your material and your strategy. And on this, I think it's very interesting to listen to the experience of CARDET in Cyprus, because this is something that is really very, very adapted. And then, very important to ensure the spreading of the good practices, to make sure that we have digitalized financial services which are easily accessible and which are cost efficient. So in our work, we have developed some projects to propose them to the member states. We have really focused on financial literacy and on digital financial literacy. And we've had a number of member states who have joined this, which is very important. And we try to promote the transferability of the initiatives, and I think that the example of Portugal is very important. We've worked with Portugal, a project that we launched in 2020-2021. So now coming back to Cyprus, I noted that the fourth objective of the national strategy of Cyprus that was approved by the Cypriot Council of Ministers targets digital financial products and services. And I understand that this should be a priority for the Cypriot stakeholders, and in particular for to those who are most vulnerable, so the rural population who have less internet access and fewer digital skills. So on our side, we can really see an immense potential for added value. We aim at contributing to a society where people can better plan their finances, can see the trade-offs between their savings and the expenditure decisions, that they can invest their savings wisely and be less likely to fall victims of frauds or scams, and that they can take advantage of all the technological innovations instead of blindly following the trends and the suggestions that they receive every day on how to spend the money on the social networks and from the influencers, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathalie. You've touched upon a very important aspect of financial literacy, which is the digital financial literacy. As we've seen, this is an digitalization is an emerging trend in financial, in the finance sphere, and also, of course, in financial literacy. So I was wondering if CARDET is an important stakeholder in this area. So do you also see this as an emerging trend, and how do you help the Cypriot population overcome this challenge?
Yeah, I think that a few of the trends, I would go a step back. One is digital, but there are many others. For example, among youth, mental health is huge and is connected with the overall well-being. Aging populations is also critical. And of course, all the changes in the region, war, climate, and so on, I think they're impacting everything. Going back to the digital now, I think that actually we implemented recently a big initiative with the support of DG Reform in Cyprus called Adult Digital Lab. And the focus was the digital skills of low-skill adults, who are the most likely to fail, the most likely to drop out of school, the most likely to be in poverty, the most likely to face a lot of challenges. So this goes back to the systemic issue that digital skills is a fundamental component. You cannot have digital financial literacy if you don't have basic digital literacy. Another initiative we implemented with the support of the Erasmus Agency focused on the elderly. You know, age in Europe. A lot of the fraud and troubles in online banking and so on is among the elderly. So we work with those people to help them develop their digital skills. So I think, again, going back to everything we've been discussing, it's very important, and I think we have to give credit to DG Reform that is actually approaching this in a systemic way in different values. And at least in Cyprus, for a fact, the last few years we see a lot of change and actual effort to go towards that direction.
So you say that you know, digital skills are a core issue in the whole process, including, of course, financial literacy. So we need to be digitalized and also financial literate, and this is something I believe that Portugal has done. Again, as a pioneer, I know that you have implemented, that you adopted a national financial literacy, digitalized literacy strategy. So I think it's important to hear from you on this initiative in your country.
Yes, we published last year financial. Thank you. we published a digital financial strategy for Portugal, which was prepared with the technical support of OECD and the financial support of DG Reform from the European Commission, because we recognize for quite a long time the importance of the digital competencies that are needed for nowadays to use digital channels when assessing and contracting financial products. Because digital channels bring speed and convenience when accessing and contracting financial products, but they also, their use also bring risks. And people, when using these channels, become exposed to online frauds and scams, to digital security risks, to account hacking, to that personal data theft. So the digital environment also exacerbates behavioral biases, so people start buying by impulse, and so increasing indebtedness. And in the digital environment that we live today, there is also important risk of exclusion. And so, being aware of that, we started at the Central Bank of Portugal in 2017 to having in our strategic plan a priority given to digital financial strategy. And we started to act to doing initiatives directed to youth and to the adult population. But these were spare initiatives, and we concluded that we needed a more coordinated and comprehensive approach together with our stakeholders, with the national plan for financial education stakeholders. And so we asked for the financial support of the European Commission and the technical support of the OECD. And yes, we launched a program last year. We are now doing the first actions. We are mobilizing the partners. That is a very important step in the implementation of this strategy. This is a 5-year strategy. It will be implemented up to 2028. And I can tell you that this is a long-term effort. So in 2028, we'll have probably a lot of things to do. But yes, we are working to have the population applying basic safety procedures when they do online transactions. For example, when creating a password, when changing the passwords, when using antivirus software, when downloading an app to the mobile phones to see if the sources are trustworthy, to protect their personal data when they share personal data on social media, and to increase the awareness that they have to know their rights when they are buying things online. They have to read the information that is provided to them by financial institutions. They have to ask and look for information about the most frequent scams and frauds online. So this is a program that we have, a 5-year program, and that we will be working with several partners. One important aspect of this strategy is that we want also to reduce digital financial exclusion. For example, we are working with the national network of public libraries to reach segments of the population that are not digitalized. And so we are working on several fronts to achieve a population more prepared to use the digital channels. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As you mentioned, trying to deal with digital financial exclusion is very significant throughout Portugal, but also throughout Europe. And it's something we are also working on. As you mentioned, Nathalie, it's in our financial literacy strategy. But I think it's also important to hear from the audience if they have any questions on this issue. I see mostly young people. I think everyone is young in the audience. So we'll be very happy to hear your questions on this. Yeah.
Hello. As a French graduate, I would like to ask, for example, I'm guessing, Ms. Berger, you're from France. So the education system is really good, quite heavy, and it gives us a lot of financial literacy. But in terms of program, it hasn't really focused on really developing this financial literate skills for others. Do you think that maybe in the future more schools in different countries would implement this into their programs?
Thank you for this question. I would hope so, indeed. I think it is absolutely needed. And now we see, in the context of the support that we are bringing to some countries to elaborate financial strategies or digital financial strategies, that more and more member states are thinking of introducing a dedicated curriculum in the context of the general education system. So, for example, I think that since September this year, financial literacy is officially part of the schooling system of the curriculum in Italy for secondary education. I think in Cyprus, a lot is going on in that direction. And so we have to continue working and spreading ideas and practices, and maybe also we need to make a little bit of a lobby towards the ministries of education for them to really realize the need, the depth of that need, and the potential that some models of financial educations would bring for the future of our citizens. So I really hope that this is something that will be done more and more in the education systems in the future. Thank you to you.
It's more of a comment or an idea for Cyprus on financial literacy. I understand that the main problem is on the youth, on the people that between 18 to 27, and I know that the government has a program to provide to youth some money for the culture, like this 200 euro voucher for culture. So I think maybe in order to be eligible for that, you need to undergo a training on financial literacy or something like that, so that you can combine it.
Yeah, so basically I have two questions, one for my Cypriot counterparts and one for you. So I'm going to start with you. Basically in that past half a decade, since 2019, we have seen the rise of what's called a finfluencer, which is an abbreviation derived from the financial influencer. We've seen the rise of crypto scams. We've seen the rise of, buy my course, you'll get X amount of money, buy this indicator, you'll 10X in 2 trades, or some insane statements like that. So from that perspective, how do you plan to tackle this issue? Or if you are taking steps already, what are they? And when it comes to you, I just want to say, as a young man, I'm like 24 years old. So I try to invest in Cyprus. I understand, the need for financial independence, having extra cash to rely on. And I prefer to invest mainly in local companies, but unfortunately I can't do that. I open my apps, I see all the United States stocks, or the US 500, you go to the UK, it's all listed there. I believe we lack a lot of infrastructure when it comes to this element. Because there are a lot of, I want to say, growth-oriented companies. Like, we have potential for growth. We have a lot of import-export companies who rent ships to Greek companies mainly. We have billions of euros coming in, but no way to invest in these companies, even though they are publicly traded. So it's a question to you. Do you see perhaps any means to tackle this particular issue? Because it's a shame to miss out on all the growth, all the dividends, all this. There's a lot of income from these companies, and we have no way to take advantage of them. So thank you very much. I'm sorry for...
Yes, thank you. Maybe I will start with the two last questions, and I will leave the other question after to colleagues on the panel. Excellent questions and spot on. What do? We have the financial influences, etc. We're talking about digital finance. Digital finance, that is something where the influencer can be at the other end of the world. So the question is, how are you going to tackle this person? Whereas the influence is here on your country, and digital finance does not really know any borders. So in Europe, what we try to do is to regulate the activity of some financial stakeholders like banks, insurance undertakings, investment funds, etc. And then get the alike type of undertakings which do not want to qualify as financial actors to be subject to the same rules and to the same obligations, because we believe that if you have the same activity, you should have the same duties, but it is not easy to grasp. So that's one first trend. Then there is the regulation of the activities of digital finance, and we have some new instruments, let's say acts, laws at European level that are there for the markets in crypto assets to regulate their activities, their insurance and their activities and the supervision. And for the liability and the activity of those who are hosting these. But it is complicated. But that does not take us to the end of the question, which is, how do you do to protect you or your colleagues or your friends? And I really believe that the best way to protect them, beyond the regulation of the activity, etc., is education, education and education. So financial education. If I may add on your other very relevant question, when you say you would like to invest, but you only find ways to invest online in the American economy, this is the first problem we're facing in the European Union. We're trying to establish a capital markets union, and we need to be able in a position to establish investment frameworks and products to which you can accede in a safe manner. So you can invest notably online in what is called the ETFs, but there is no real European quoted ETF. So we are working at the level of the European Union. There was a first capital markets union strategy in 2015, another one in 2020. Still, it is not there for a number of reasons, but we need to get to deep and liquid capital markets that are really integrated, where you get the offer for you to invest in. So excellent questions. Thank you.
Just quickly to follow up on that, and you're absolutely right, and Draghi recently in the competitiveness report says it's an area that EU needs to improve. When there is an innovation, first we rush to regulate it instead of support the innovation. Whereas in other examples, United States, China, and so on, that's why they are outperforming years ahead. At the same time, I also like the recommendation there. Instead of passing out euro, let's put some conditions to it. Take a free course on financial literacy, and then I'll give you 300, not 200. That's a very good point. Thank you.
Thank you. I also find Marco's suggestion very good, and I will pass it to the Minister of Education. We are wrapping up now. I would like to thank you all for your participation. The DG Reform for organizing this panel. Is also always a pleasure to participate in such topical discussions. I think just to close, we can see that financial literacy is very crucial for the well-being of the citizens, and it takes not two to tango, but three, I would say, in this area. The public sector, the private sector, but also NGOs, stakeholders, and a bottom-up, not just a bottom-up, but also, not just a top-down, but also a bottom-up approach, empowering the citizens that are here in front of us in the panel, taking informed financial decisions, and the financial literacy strategy, financial literacy education is the way to do it. Thank you, everyone.